Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down a truly terrifying story. We're going to look at how it builds this incredible sense of mystery and dread, and how it turns just a regular guy into a survivor against all odds.
All right, let's just jump right in. From the very first line of the prologue, the tone is set, and it is chilling. This isn't your classic alien invasion with ships and explosions. No, this is framed as something way older, something parasitic, like an ancient hunger that's been quietly feeding just under the surface. It just establishes a much deeper, creepier kind of horror right from the get-go.
So, meet our main guy, Chet Brooks. He's a meticulous archivist. His life is all about order, catalogs, everything in its right place. But his perfectly predictable world gets completely shattered by this recurring nightmare that is so realistic it feels less like a dream and more like a memory trying to claw its way out.
Now what's so effective here is how specific these details are. The shadowed woods, that unnervingly bright yellow coat, the slimy writhing tubes, and that sharp, searing pain. This isn't some vague fear in the dark. These are concrete, sensory details that build the foundation of the horror and make it feel disturbingly real from page 1.
So pretty early on, the threat gets a name. And it's a weird one, right? Tubular vampires. It almost sounds a little pulpy, a little B-movie, but the way the man in the yellow coat says it so calmly, and then adds that their only purpose is to consume, well, that just sets up this huge, terrifying mystery. We know what they're called, but we have absolutely no idea what they really are or what exactly they're consuming. And this is where the story just completely shifts gears. It stops being just a psychological horror story trapped inside Chet's head and becomes a full-on investigation as all those nightmarish pieces start bleeding into his real waking life.
You can see how the author just methodically chips away at Chet's sanity here. What starts as just a bad dream and maybe a few coincidences, an old news article, a random guy in a yellow vest, it slowly gets backed up by hard evidence. And that moment he finds those marks on his own arm, that's the turning point. That's when the threat becomes undeniably real and physical.
This, right here, is the core of the horror. The story just masterfully collapses that wall between the subconscious and the real world. That phantom pain, it's a real scar now. The forest from his dream, it's a real place on a map. And those nightmare figures, they're real people. Suddenly, there's absolutely nowhere safe for Chet to hide. So now, Chet has actual physical proof. He can't explain it away anymore. He has to seek out the source of his terror. And in this incredibly tense confrontation, we finally learn the true horrifying purpose of the tubes.
And here's the big reveal. They don't just consume blood or life force. They consume consciousness. They're literally harvesting history, memory, and patterns directly from our minds. This just elevates the threat to a whole new level. Chet, the archivist, isn't some random victim. His mind is a library, a treasure trove, and they want to read every single word. And this just defines the chilling stakes. These attacks aren't random at all. It's a calculated, selective harvest. And the nightmares? They're not a side effect. They're an engineered process to prepare their victims. This shows a level of intelligence and planning that is just so unsettling. You realize humanity isn't just being preyed upon, it's being farmed.
And then, the tide turns, and it comes from the most unlikely source you can imagine. A captive little girl named Lily makes this seemingly innocent comment. She says Chet smells like the outside, unlike the dormant alien seedlings. And that one simple sentence, it changes everything. It's the key.
I mean, look at this transformation. The quiet researcher, the guy who works with books, applies his analytical mind to survival. He doesn't suddenly become an action hero. No, he uses who he is. He observes, he makes a hypothesis, and he acts methodically. He turns something as simple as turpentine into a powerful weapon and engineers a desperate, chaotic escape.
But here's the thing. The escape isn't the end. It's not a happily ever after moment. In fact, it's the beginning of a much larger, much scarier conflict. They didn't just escape a monster in the woods. They kicked the hornet's nest.
And it all hangs on this. One key weakness has been discovered. This is the pivot point for the entire story. Finding that one vulnerability is all it takes to shift the power dynamic. The prey, the hunted, now has a weapon, and the story morphs from pure survival horror into one of actual resistance. There's hope, even if it's just a sliver.
So think about what this means. The horror is no longer personal, it's global. These things are a hive mind. They've felt the loss of their young. They are fully aware of what happened, and now they know exactly who Chet is and what he's capable of. The fight is no longer about one man escaping a nightmare. It's about the soul of humanity.
This line just perfectly captures Chet's journey, doesn't it? He went from being this passive victim of these subconscious whispers, his nightmares, to being an active soldier in a war he never even knew existed. The threat isn't a secret anymore. It's a roaring, conscious, and very angry enemy.
And that's really the question the story leaves us with. It starts as this creature feature, right? Tubes in the woods. But it becomes something so much deeper. A battle for consciousness, for memory, for the very thing that makes us who we are. It makes you ask, when the enemy's goal is to literally consume your soul, what does fighting back even look like?